Wake up, sleepyheads. This your Uncle Grandee once again with today's news. Today I want to talk a little bit about this article. LAURYN Hill, she went to jail for $500,000 in an unpaid tax bill. You notice the article, it says she blames slavery. This is what it's coming to, man. And I'm speaking to the men. It's coming to the point where our women have to stand up and take the fall and get the punishment, because we turned into a bunch of cowards. She right. It is slavery. Even under the Constitution, it states you cannot tax a man's labor, because when you tax a man's labor, you had a power to enslave him. In America, it was supposed to simply be a direct tax or an indirect tax. That means you could tax something like cigarettes or gasoline, which the IMF, if you go to Infowars.com, you'll see the IMF is trying to impose a world tax on gasoline, which is $1.40 extra. But anyway, and then you could have a tax like a state tax, 6% on everything you buy. That was supposed to be the power, the limit of taxation. That way you would always have a choice whether you wanted to pay that tax or not. Simply don't buy cigarettes or don't buy gas, or limit the amount of products you buy, thus decreasing the amount of taxes you pay. Well, once they started the IRS and the Federal Reserve, they changed the rules. First they implemented what was a volunteer income tax. It was supposed to be volunteer, folks. Then they came up with the police force, the IRS, and they incrementally started forcing the tax on the people. Now, there still is not a law stating that you have to pay a federal tax, but people believe it's a law, so they're able to enforce it with their bullies. Now there's so many people that started paying the tax. If anyone refuses, they get what LAURYN Hill gets. You know, if she say, hey, I'm not gonna be a slave, my forefathers were slaves, I'm not gonna let that happen to me. They demonize us, and us men, we look at it like, well, I'm paying it. You don't want to feel like a jackass, or you don't want to admit you ain't standing up. So it's easy for you to be like, yeah, she should have just paid it. I'll pay mine. We got to stand up, folks. If you read down the article, she done paid over almost $1 million already in taxes. See that? $970,000 she paid. Oh, come on. So she true. She telling the truth, folks. We're gonna have to stand up. We're gonna have to quit letting the system dictate what we see as right or wrong. We're gonna have to go by our hearts. We're gonna have to use common sense. Go to the Constitution, folks. Let me show you something. Let me show you an article. I'm gonna show you a little excerpt from Alex Jones. This is for all y'all people that don't believe that there's a force against us. You can call it what you want to call it. The New World Order, the banking elite, Satanists. They exist, folks. Hold on, let me pull this link up. I want to show you something.
123.com before it's too late. Again, that's exposed123.com.
He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
All right, I've decided I'm doing the whole hour live in transmission. I'm going to be live tonight, 7 o'clock. InfoWars Nightly News, PrisonPlanet.tv for listing showtimes, streams, and more. But here's Tim Clemente, the FBI counterterrorism official, admitting, but like it's, we listened to all the phone calls. Well, this has already been admitted, but it just shows how illegal all this is. This is an illegitimate government. Here it is on CNN.
Okay, let's turn our attention now to the phone call between Catherine Russell and her husband, Tamerlan Tsarnaev. You said something very interesting on Aaron Burnett's show last night. You said that if Catherine Russell does not divulge the contents of this phone call, that the FBI had other methods finding out what was said. What did you mean by that?
Well, on the national security side of the house, in the federal government, we have assets. There's lots of assets at our disposal throughout the intelligence community, and also not just domestically but overseas. Those assets allow us to gain information and intelligence on things that we can't use ordinarily in a criminal investigation, but are used for major terrorism investigations or counterintelligence investigations.
And you're not talking about a voicemail, right? What are you talking about exactly?
I'm talking about all digital communications there's a way to look at digital communications in the past. And I can't go into detail.
He said all digital communications they can look at.
Communication is secure, and so these communications will be found out. The conversation will be known.
It's all recorded.
It's a question of whether or not Catherine Russell decides to own up to
everything is recorded since the mid-1990s with your tax money. And the people listening, like Sibel Edmonds, she hears them commanding Al-Qaeda, running white slave rings, running weapons, just like they run Al-Qaeda now. I'm going to explain to you. The people that run our government, that arrogant FBI guy all smiling, we have assets. Yeah, we know you got assets, pal. We know all about them. And now you have people without counsel say they did it while they're sedated and you cut their throat out. I mean, these guys are creepy, man. This is mafia that's broken this country's back. They get hundreds of billions every few years in no-bid contracts to spy on us. And they all go along with it. They all think it's funny. They go, trust us. Yeah, right. You stolen the country blind. Now, I'm going to go to this next report, and we're going to go to break. We're going to come back and take your calls at 800-259-9231. What do you think about Adam Kokesh in an armed march? Will you be joining him? Do you have concerns like I do? 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231, specifically on the Second American Revolution. Is it peaceful? What's going to happen? What do you think of what Kokesh said? I respect his guts. I agree with his right to do it, but is it a good idea? Because I could have done this anytime I wanted to, obviously. You've heard the callers over the years have had a big national story. But I know I'm so real, they might bust a cap in my button in the operation right there when I'm so effective beating them in the info war. I don't know. What do you think? 800-259-9231. That video, so that Drudge can add it, whoever wants to, for other news sites. I talked to him, by the way. It's his first video interview or audio interview that we just did last hour. That's going up at YouTube in the next hour. Infowars.com will post it pronto. So, underlay, Arriba to Rob Do right now. He's about to upload it. But first, let's go to this report that John Bound and Dan Badandi put together. Showing
now pay attention, folks.
Saying Ron Paul's wrong. There was no martial law. Everybody loved what happened in Boston. So here is that report.
I'm David Knight with InfoWars Nightly News. Now, recently, Ron Paul was on the Alex Jones show, and he expressed concern about the way the police conducted themselves. He had some pretty strong language. He called it martial law, and we agree.
Governments are supposed to protect our liberties. Once they decide they're going to make us safe, economically and physically safe, they can only do this by taking away our liberties. Those pictures really concern me. That is such a visual image when you see thousands and thousands of troops, and they weren't your local friendly policemen that were involved. I mean, can you imagine all these people being locked? They became prisoners. It was accepted too easily. was martial law.
But Lawrence O'Donnell took exception to that, and he very strongly called Ron Paul a liar repeatedly on his show for what he said about the way the police conducted themselves, going house to house, pointing guns at exception to that. And he very strongly called Ron Paul a liar repeatedly on his show for what he said about the way the police conducted themselves, going house to house, pointing guns at people in windows in houses, dragging them out of their houses at gunpoint, going down the streets in armored personnel carriers with full police riot gear.
Wait, I want to show pictures first, and then I want show some of the pictures of the Boston police. Okay, look at this. I mean, if this is what you have, why don't you invade a country? Show some of the other ones. I mean, go up to Canada, take their oil. Look at these. These are half-tracks. I don't care what you might want to call it, an urban assault vehicle, but this country is very troubling to me.
We believe that's very excessive. We believe that that is setting a template for martial law to be gradually eased in, and so does Ron Paul. But Lawrence O'Donnell called him a liar. He said from the very beginning to say that this was forced is a lie, that the governor was just simply telling people to shelter in place, and it was a suggestion.
Police don't need warrants. Families thrown out of their homes at gunpoint to be searched without probable cause. No guns were pointed at any families. What a vile lie. There were no tanks and there were no police pointing their weapons at innocent citizens.
Well, when the government points a gun at you and suggests that you do something, we call that force. And they may call it something else, but they're just playing with semantics. We wanted to add to the pictures that people have already seen, pictures that were already there when Lawrence O'Donnell called Ron Paul a liar. So we sent Dan Badandi to interview residents and tell us what they experienced during this excessive manhunt. And here are those interviews.
A cop pointed his gun at me, and then they called SWAT in, and then SWAT came and picked me up by a shield, and they threw me in the back of a car and then dropped me off in the middle of Newton.
They dropped you off in the middle of nowhere. And what time of night was that?
What time was that? Like 5? Yeah. Broad daylight. Just dropped me off, took me out of the cuffs, and told me to walk.
And when they put the cuffs on you, did they read you your Miranda rights?
Nope.
So you were unlawfully detained for being on public property?
Yeah.
Did they ask to search your house?
They told me they wouldn't search the house.
So they didn't ask you, they just told you?
They told me they wouldn't come in and search.
And did they command you to leave your home?
They told us we had to leave, yes. One thing I was very, very upset about is that when we were leaving here, the lights were on in the house, TVs, you know, and back door, they had gone the back door down my basement, and they told me, I said, let me just close all my doors and lock up, and they said no, they would do it. I came home. Back door was open. This is hours now later. Back door was open, front door was open, basement door was open, lights were on, TVs were on. No one did anything.
So they basically left your house unsecured, but the doors wide open while nobody was home?
Yes, they did.
And you say there's bullet holes in your car here?
Yes, this is a bullet hole here. And there's a bullet hole here. It shot out the window on the side there. And in my car, there's a bullet hole, as you can see. I don't know where it is. Maybe some car somewhere, I have no idea. But the back window's blown out and the side window's blown out. What they did, they disrupted this entire world for a day.
We initially got a report from the police department that it was voluntary searches, but then after talking to the residents, we found out that they weren't asking if they could have permission to enter homes. They were just forcefully entering people's homes to search.
So did they knock at your door, just walk in?
They knocked the door, but you know, I mean, the door, they almost pushed the door through on me.
And did they ask you to search your home at all, or they just did it?
They just did it, you know, they just came in and they went through.
And did they command you to leave your home?
Yes. We left, and they say, let's lock the doors. They say, no, we'll take care of it, we'll lock your doors and everything. We came home midnight and everything was open. And nobody was around here.
So they left your house also unsecured and wide open?
Exactly. And nobody was around here. What takes anybody? Anybody can walk in.
They mistreated the elderly then, right?
Yes, yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes, you know, I didn't like that. You know, like I said, they tried to do the job, you know what I mean? No. But at this point here, I got very upset, very upset.
And, did they ask to search your house or they just searched it?
They wanted to search the house, but my grandma said nobody was in there, and then they proceeded to ask my grandma for my uncle lives upstairs, and the house is a deadbolt, and my grandma said, no, there's no one up there. I didn't hear anyone go up the stairs, but they still made her give the house key and unlocked it with that key and searched upstairs and all the way up to that. Well, they didn't want to give the key back, but they ended up giving the key back. My grandma, they did.
And did they command you at all any time to leave your home or stay in the home?
So it was stay inside. But the thing overall that caught my eye is that my friend on Franklin Street lived across the street, and the Army people did a huge search in their garage. But the boat was directly across the street. They didn't search the boat, not once. They didn't even go around it.
That's where the younger brother was found?
That's where the suspect was. And it's funny because the police didn't find him when they did the thing. The person finally got to leave their house because they said everyone stay inside. He left his house and saw the blood on the boat.
We, had been open multiple checkpoints. We were searched ourselves. Other journalists on the scene were told to lay on the ground as they were searched. So it was a very, very touchy, very intense situation to be in.
Matter of fact, when we woke up, a pig showed up that was down here from Vietnam. It was look like a Vietnam song. Those guns that were going left and right. Yeah, all your neighbors' houses got hit.
Oh, we did the door. We got a stone door.
They passed my stone door.
The other doors are.
And the door upstairs,
There was a floor there.
But then we got 4 more feet on this side. Yeah. Would have get me on my bedroom. Oh, yeah. That's when you sleep inside. Were guns pointed at you any time, and did they tell you to put your hands up in the air or anything?
Not me, but my boyfriend.
So your boyfriend had his hands up in the air and they were searching him?
Yes, because he came out to check his diesel in the back of his truck.
They were pretty much right here in front of my house, and they were just shooting down that direction. That went on for a couple minutes, and then there were 2 more booms, with the last one just really lighting the entire neighborhood up. It shook the house, set off all the car alarms.
And did they make you put your hands up?
When we came out, we put our hands up and they searched us, but other than that, we just walked down.
And did they ask you at all to search you?
Yeah, they asked. They told us that they were going to be searching us.
And by the way, the police know what they did. It's illegal. And so they're saying, oh, everyone, let us do this. And that's the type of...
You see it? Everybody let us do it. That's the game they're going to play. Listen to me carefully, America. The first time they do that in an urban community, you're going to have homeless people. You're going to have drunks that don't really have a wherewithal. You're going to have children out there who have no parent or guidance, who not going to comply. They're not going to let them search them. They're not going to go inside. They're not going to comply. And they're going to kill them. And then the narrative is going to change from they was a voluntary search till they wouldn't comply. That's how they trick you. Now remember, now you just said it all has to be volunteer. But watch when they do this to a major city. Watch how many of the people they kill and arrest and say they wasn't complying. They didn't want to get searched. Everybody not comfortable let nobody search them. I ain't got nothing on me, but I don't like men rubbing my body. Period. Do I have that right? Or is Lauryn Hill right? We all slaves. If we not slaves, then why can't we refuse? Why can't we stop? Why can't we not pay the income taxes? Why can't we stop? We should. Don't go to a ball game. Mark my words. When they have outdoor events, part of what they say the new policy going to be is don't bring cameras. Watch. Because they don't want the real information getting out. It's time for us to wake up, folks. Once again, it's your Uncle Grady. Wipe your eyes. Wake up. And let's stop participating in the tyranny, in the oppression. Let's be like Lauryn Hill. Let's say, no, I'm not a slave.